Hello everyone, it's July 22nd, 2019. It's Tuesday. It's Harp Tuesday! And in this episode, I'm going to talk about the goal of playing pain-free, which is an admirable goal. I did an episode a few weeks ago talking about using a rubber band as a way to practice being relaxed. And I thought today I would just talk about sort of the more broad topic of, as I say, playing without pain. And I want to start with a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. This shouldn't be construed as medical advice. You should always consult a qualified professional. And I also feel somewhat unqualified because I've never experienced any sort of serious injury related to playing the harp, which, I mean, that's great. Let's keep that going. And it maybe means I'm doing something right in terms of technique and relaxation, but it also means that I don't have any sort of first-hand knowledge. I haven't had to investigate ways to prevent or to rehabilitate some sort of repetitive stress injury involved with my instrument. So I can't tell you, yes, do this stretch and this stretch and this stretch, or do this exercise and this exercise and this exercise. But what I can offer are maybe just some common sense thoughts and ideas, and maybe one or two of those in there might be something you hadn't really thought of and potentially might be helpful. So this is going to be a bit of a longish episode. I've got some notes, try to stay on track here. And the first thing I want to talk about, I guess, is the fact that many people do experience pain and injury playing an instrument. And especially, for example, in the field that I'm in, classical music, many professional classical musicians have some sort of injury or have had at some point in the past injury related to playing their instrument, because you're playing often many times for long hours, all these very small demanding movements. And so don't feel, if you're someone who is experiencing some sort of pain, don't feel that you're alone, but also be aware that there are options to address that you should hopefully be able to play pain-free. You don't have to suffer for your art. And in terms of medical professionals, physiotherapists, whether that's sports physiotherapist, maybe you're lucky enough to find someone who specializes with musicians, but consulting people if you are experiencing a problem. There's also ergonomics. Again, maybe people train specifically to deal with ergonomics and musicians. There's Alexander technique. And then more generally, there's sort of just things like I mentioned Alexander technique, yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, things that maybe just address your body, not specifically to do with music. And that's because, of course, music is a sport in a sense, and regardless of the instrument, if the fitter we are and the more in shape we're in and just the healthier our body is, the better the chance that we can play pain-free. So again, that's worth thinking about stretches or weight training or exercise, that all of those can help address your body when it comes to playing the harp or playing any instrument. So, and also one of the things that can help with that, something say like yoga or Tai Chi or martial arts or something might do, is help your body awareness. And I think that is something that's really important, that we should strive to be as aware of our body as we can. So for example, relaxation, of course, is so important, right? That we want to, when we're playing, only be using the muscles that we need to use and relaxing the rest of our body as much as we can. But maybe sometimes we think we're relaxed and yet we're not. So for example, the student who says, "Oh, I'm relaxing," and then you touch their arm and it's rock hard, right? Those muscles are just so tense, and yet they're not aware of it. So the more that you can be aware of your body and bring that body awareness, the more helpful and the better that will be. So I think that's just something really, really important. And tied in with that then idea is monitoring your body. And so being aware of what you're experiencing. So let's say you experience some discomfort or something. Is it pain? Is it fatigue? Is it, in other words, trying to make sure you know, is this something that you should stop playing immediately? Maybe take a break, not play for the rest of the day? Does it mean you just need to take a short break, maybe do some stretches? Is it something that it's fatigue, but you can play through without causing any injury? And again, it's not always apparent, but just trying to build that body awareness of yourself, of your own body. So just to give you an example, for me, doesn't happen very often, but maybe every year, a couple of years, maybe I'm doing some type of playing, and on that particular day, as I'm practicing, I feel that pattern that I'm doing, the third and fourth finger, which of course share that tendon, that it almost feels as if the tendon is going over the other way. It's this peculiar feeling, and if that ever happens to me, it always freaks me out a little bit, and I just stop that pattern. I might stop practicing for the moment, or often maybe I'll just practice something different, maybe a little less demanding, or just that type of pattern. And is an example, again, to do kind of with that third and fourth finger. They're the Salzedo conditioning exercises, for example, and many of them are in that second inversion 4-note chord shape, where you have extra gap between 4 and 3. And it's worth just being aware that that's putting an extra strain again on 3 and 4, which aren't necessarily designed to work that way. And so if you find that doing this is causing some pain, probably a good idea to stop. And again, it's trying to develop that sense of, is this pain? Is this discomfort? Is this something that's going to get worse if I keep playing? Or is this something I can play? Or maybe something that I will build up strength by playing through this. But again, just building that awareness for yourself of knowing when, I better stop what I'm doing, or maybe I better just stop practicing for a little bit. And that brings me to another really important point, which is breaks, structuring breaks within your practice, and certainly trying to structure your practice over the day, if at all possible, not doing all your practice at one point in time, but spreading it out over the day. And I know, for example, maybe you're a student at a conservatory and you have limited practice time available. You sign up, you get your 2 hours to practice with a harp in the practice room, and you want to make use of all that time. But I think it's really important, even if you're mainly going to practice for those 2 hours, take some breaks in there, so that you might take a little mini break, work for a while, come to a natural pause, and just a little bit of a break. Put the harp down, right? Maybe drink a little bit of water, just maybe a stretch or two, or just a little pause. And then a slightly longer break, like a 5-minute break, after 40 minutes or something. Again, get up, stretch a little bit, drink some water. Ideally, don't check your phone or anything. Stay focused. Not a huge break, but just a little bit of a break for the body, a little bit of a pause. And again, just a chance for things to relax and stretch out. And I just think that's so important not to overdo the amount of practice that you're doing in any one particular point in time. Let's see. I'm just checking my notes here. So again, coming back to this idea of body awareness, you can help by providing some feedback for yourself. So it's one thing, again, as I was saying, maybe I tell you, well, imagine there's a rubber band around your fingers, there's an opening and closing, but it's another thing to actually put a rubber band around your fingers and have that experience, and you don't have to remember it. It provides immediate feedback right there of what it is you're trying to achieve. So having a nice full-length mirror in front of you as you practice can be really, really helpful. And it's a low-tech, reasonably cheap, great investment. It doesn't have to be there permanently. You can even just prop it up and then put it away when you're done practicing, or not even there all the time, but certainly sometime to have that feedback. That could be a great way to sort of glance up as you're practicing and see yourself in a different way, right? We're within our body, but now we're getting this visual feedback, and that maybe we're twisting around the harp. Maybe things are just not the way we want them to be, and that can be a great way to get some feedback. Recording yourself, videoing yourself. Again, these days it's so easy. There's most people these days have a smartphone. If you're watching this, there's a good chance you probably have some sort of device that could record you, that you could use to video yourself. It doesn't have to be amazing quality, but again, just a way of then getting some feedback when you're not playing, you watch this and you notice, oh yeah, this. Again, the most useful type of feedback is feedback that happens as the action that you're taking, that you want to change, is happening. But watching yourself on a video at least gives you the opportunity to watch and analyze when you're not involved in playing. But again, the mirror, the nice thing is you see that you're doing something and you can immediately try and change that. I mentioned the rubber band. Also, just in terms of technique, maybe there's a particular hand angle that you're trying to achieve. And maybe by putting stickers on a knuckle that you want to see or something like that. Again, trying to figure out, is there some sort of physical reminder, physical way of getting that immediate feedback? Not that you're just trying to remember a certain position, but to have that maybe visual or again, just some way of, for yourself, getting some feedback of maybe helping you achieve the position or technique that you want to achieve. I'll throw out a reminder or a link to an episode that I did on Back to Basics. I think might be an interesting, just to get a sense of some of my technique, thoughts and ideas, and of course that rubber band episode. But again, everybody's body is different, and so this is again where a good teacher can be so invaluable, because they can see you in your hands, in your body, in your harp, and give you some feedback in terms of what you can do if there's something that's bothering you, or maybe even if there's not, but just a heads up, oh, it looks like that could develop into a problem, just to change your position or your technique or whatever. So again, all this is just I think basic common sense stuff, but the final thing I kind of want to talk about is the height that you sit at in your bench, because this is such an easy thing, I guess, but it often kind of gets overlooked a little bit. And I think it's just really important. So you want to be seated such that your hips are higher than your knees, right? You don't want to sit so low that your knees are higher than your hips. This is especially important with pedal harp, where we're moving those pedals, and certainly for me, because I use my heels and my toes, that if those knees are too high, it's going to really cause stress on your lower back and your hips. So you want to be seated high enough, right? And at the same time, you want to have a good position for the harp. So whatever that might be for you and for the harp that you're using, but you don't want to be so high. So for example, this Kamak harp, and I've mentioned this, I'm seated at a height I'm pretty comfortable with. I could sit a little bit lower with a lever harp because I'm not using those pedals, but on the lever harp, I'm often using a Bluetooth pedal to change my iPad, in which case I'm, again, sort of activating the leg and pushing down with the toe. I don't want to sit too low, so I could sit potentially a little bit lower than I'm sitting right now, but regardless, this particular harp, this Kamak Excalibur, is a little bit too low for me. I want my shoulder to be down right about here or something. So that's not ideal. Whereas this, again, this height and everything, this is pretty good for me right here. So with a lever harp, you should be able to achieve sort of the perfect height. Find a good seated height. Check to see if that's the height you want. If now if the harp is still too high, in other words, if I'm way down here and I want to be a little bit higher, raise your seat up and potentially then put something under your feet, right? So that your feet aren't dangling way down. Small kids or whatever, get something under the feet. But in this case, if the harp is too low, raise the harp up. So my brother actually made me this beautiful little box, which just goes under my Kamak harp and raises it up. so that it's high enough. And some harps, again, the lever harp, the Aoyama that I started on, had legs. You could take them on or off. I know Dusty Strings offers several heights of attachable legs. Again, to just kind of get that perfect height for you. And again, it's so important, but oftentimes we just don't maybe do enough experimentation. So it's worth trying to sit a little bit higher, or sit a little bit lower, or raise your harp up, or raise it down a little bit. And a great investment is an adjustable bench. And I definitely prefer the ones like a piano bench, where it's not just you get some benches that are adjustable, but they are digital, as it were, right? You could be like this, or this, or this set heights. Whereas the crank benches are great because they are kind of analog in the sense that we can make very small, minute adjustments to the height. And I know, especially if you're learning an instrument and you've already paid for a harp and it's kind of expensive, and why would you want to go out and buy a bench? You've got a chair over here, you can use that. But I just think it's such a great investment to have something where you can easily tweak and experiment in terms of the height that you're sitting. So that's definitely worth thinking about. Now, with a pedal harp, it's a little bit more challenging because now we can raise ourselves up, right? So we can raise ourselves up, and again, maybe then we have to create some sort of platform for our feet. There are also pedal extenders. I'll put up a picture here. Pedal extenders, and this is, for very small kids playing pedal harp, that can be great because again, you can sit at the height that you want and actually reach the pedals. So that's not a problem, but where we do run into a problem is if the harp is too small for us, the pedal harp is too small, because again, let's say I'm sitting at the height that I wanted, and imagine this is a pedal harp, and I want to raise this up, but if I raise this up, the pedals then are raised up, and then I can't operate the pedals, or I'm dealing with having my, again, knees going up above my hips as I try to operate them, and I would just have to get higher, and then the harp would have to get higher. It wouldn't work. So with pedal harps, it is possible, I think, to have a harp that is too small for you, and I know I've experienced that, right, with some of the like 44 string pedal harps where I couldn't play on that on a sort of regular basis because to get the height that I would want, and again, I could certainly sit a little bit higher here, that would be okay, but I'd either have to be something like this to get my feet where I want them, or to again feel as if my knees are way up above my hips, and it would not be good for my long-term back health. So that kind of brings me to the point that not all harps are going to fit all people. So if you think of piano, we're used to kind of everyone basically can play any piano to some extent. On the other hand, you think of string instruments, and depending on the age and size of the person, there are quarter size or half size or three-quarter size violins, for example. And so for the harp, again, in general, you can hopefully make any harp playable for yourself, but sometimes you can't. And another example, apart from the height of pedal harps, or the size of the pedal harps, again, would be like maybe a huge pedal harp for you that was just, you're very small, and this pedal harp is very large. That potentially even, yes, you could use pedal extenders, you could raise yourself way up off the floor, but it's not ideal. Might as well get a harp, because there are harps out there. Might as well get a harp that fits your body size and shape better. And some harps have the square back, and maybe often quite a large back up here. So for some people, that might be a real problem trying to reach around. It might cause a lot of problem with the shoulder and the arm. Small shoulders, small arms trying to reach around. That could be a problem. The string tension of the harp, right? That, again, depending on the state of health of your hands, for example, that you might find that a lighter string tension is going to be healthier for you than dealing with harder string tension. And again, even among, say, pedal harps, which generally have quite a high tension feel, there are going to be varieties. And some harps, again, just maybe it's easier to get a sound out of them. That's worth thinking about as well. And so, yeah, all of these, these are all just worth thinking about. And again, just like the bench, it can be a worthwhile investment to get a setup that's good for you. If you're going to be playing music all your life, it's nice to be able to do that pain-free. And so I think it's worth the investment sometimes of getting an instrument or a setup that's going to be right for you. So to just kind of recap, some of the most important things I would say would be cultivating your body awareness, right? Trying to bring as much relaxation to your playing as you can. Using a mirror to provide feedback. Taking breaks, don't overdo practice sessions. And again, that with a body awareness, just try to pay attention to what your body's telling you. And create a good setup for yourself where you're making it as easy as possible for your body to stay pain-free while you're playing. So I hope at least some of that was useful or interesting, or maybe both. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Cheers.